The fallout from the HOA's decision was swift and public. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood, and soon the Aarons found themselves at the center of a heated community debate. Some residents, like the Wilkins, stridently supported the HOA's stance, claiming the neon lawn was an abomination that needed to be stopped. Others, however, rallied behind the Aarons, applauding their defiance of the tyrannical HOA. Online, the controversy exploded, with the Aarons lawn becoming a viral sensation. Hashtags like #GreenGatekeepers and #LawnLiberty trended, as people from all over the country weighed in on the battle. Jake and Emily found themselves the subject of both praise and vitriol, their every move scrutinized and dissected. Angry neighbors confronted them on the street, while strangers from across the country sent messages of support. "How dare you disrupt the harmony of our community?" Mrs. Wilkins shrieked, her face flushed with outrage. "This is a disgrace, and you should be ashamed of yourselves." Jake stood his ground, his voice level but firm. "With all due respect, Mrs. Wilkins, this is our property, and we have every right to maintain it as we see fit. The HOA's decision is unfair and unlawful, and we won't back down." Across town, a group of like-minded residents had gathered to plan a show of solidarity. "We can't let the HOA bully the Aarons into submission," said a young woman named Sarah. "We need to send a message that this kind of tyranny won't be tolerated." The group hatched a plan, one that would thrust the Aarons' fight into the national spotlight. As the 48-hour deadline loomed, tensions in the neighborhood reached a fever pitch, with both sides digging in for an epic showdown. The next morning, Jake sprang into action, determined to defy that HOA's edict. He marched to the nearest garden center, his mind racing with ideas. If they wanted his lawn less green, he'd give them a lawn they'd never forget. He emerged an hour later, the trunk of his car brimming with bags of vibrant, neon-hued grass seed. "Time to show these HOA stooges who's in charge," he muttered, a wicked grin spreading across his face. That afternoon, Jake and Emily worked tirelessly, meticulously spreading the fluorescent seed across their once pristine lawn. As the sun started to set, their creation took on an otherworldly glow, a radioactive carpet of verdant splendor. "There," Jake said, wiping the sweat from his brow. "Let's see those goons try to call this an eyesore." The next morning, the Aarons' lawn stood out like a beacon, a riot of unnatural greens that seemed to pulsate with an unholy energy. Neighbors gathered, whispering and shaking their heads in disbelief. When the HOA inspector returned, his face contorted in a mask of horror. "What in the name of all that is holy have you done?" he sputtered, his clipboard trembling in his hands. Jake grinned, crossing his arms defiantly. "I'm giving you exactly what you asked for. A lawn that's less green. How's that working out for you?" The inspector's nostrils flared as he struggled to compose himself. This is completely unacceptable. You're in flagrant violation of the HOA regulations. I have no choice but to issue a citation and fine." Emily stepped forward, her eyes narrowed. "On what grounds?" "You told us our lawn was too green, so we fixed it. If you have a problem with the color, that's your own issue." The inspector's face reddened. "The color is not the issue. It's the unnatural, garish appearance. This is a clear attempt to defy and undermine the HOA." Jake let out a harsh laugh. "Defy and undermine. No, we're simply following your directive to the letter. If you have a problem with the results, that's your problem, not ours." The inspector's jaw worked furiously as he scanned the offending lawn one more time. "Mark my words, Mr. Aarons, this isn't over. You'll be hearing from us again." With that, he turned and stormed off, leaving the Aarons to survey their neon-hued triumph. In the days that followed, the Aarons' lawn became the talk of the neighborhood. Whispers and speculation swirled as residents cautiously approached the glowing, otherworldly expanse of grass. What on earth possessed them to do that? Mrs. Wilkins, the nosy next-door neighbor, muttered to her husband as they took their daily stroll. "It's an absolute eyesore." Her husband shrugged. "Maybe they're making some kind of statement. You know how those errands can be." Mrs. Wilkins sniffed disapprovingly. "Well, it's simply unacceptable. The HOA needs to put a stop to this nonsense before it spreads." True to the inspector's word, the errands soon found a formal citation taped to their front door. The bold lettering demanded they restore their lawn to a natural, acceptable appearance within 72 hours or face escalating fines and potential legal action. Jake crumpled the citation in his fist, his jaw clenched with fury. Can you believe the gall of these people? They tell us our lawn is too green, we fix it, and now they're still not happy. Emily placed a calming hand on his arm. "Easy, honey. Let's not lose our heads. We'll fight this, but we have to be smart about it." "Smart?" Jake scoffed. "These people don't want smart, they want blind obedience." "Well, they're not going to get it from me." That night, Jake and Emily huddled over a stack of legal documents, poring over the fine print of their HOA agreement. "Aha!" Jake exclaimed, his finger stabbing the page. There, in Section 7, subsection B, homeowners are entitled to maintain their property in accordance with personal aesthetic preferences, provided said preferences do not violate local ordinances or present a public nuisance. Emily's eyes widened. "You're right, and our lawn, no matter how unconventional, doesn't violate any laws. We're within our rights." Jake grinned, a gleam of triumph in his eyes. "Exactly. Time to give these HOA bullies a taste of their own medicine." The next morning, Jake and Emily unveiled their meticulously crafted defense to the HOA, armed with a binder of legal citations and photographic evidence. The HOA board members, seated around a long mahogany table, shifted uncomfortably as the errands laid out their case. "As you can see," Jake said, gesturing to the documents, "our lawn, while admittedly unique, does not violate any local ordinances or pose a public safety risk. In fact, according to your own bylaws, we are well within our rights to maintain our property as we see fit." The HOA president, a stern-faced woman named Mrs. Blackwell, cleared her throat. "Be that as it may, Mr. Aarons, the aesthetic cohesion of our community is paramount. Your lawn is a clear and flagrant violation of that." Emily leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "With all due respect, Mrs. Blackwell, your personal preferences do not supersede our legal rights as homeowners. We have every intention of maintaining our lawn as we see fit." The board members exchanged uneasy glances, and Mrs. Blackwell's lips thinned into a tight line. "Very well, then. We'll have to take this matter to a vote." The vote was heated and contentious, with the Aarons staunchly defending their position while the HOA members argued passionately for the greater good of the community. In the end, the decision was split down the middle, leaving the final ruling to the HOA president. Mrs. Blackwell cleared her throat, her gaze fixed on the Aarons. "After careful consideration, the HOA has determined that your lawn constitutes a violation of our community standards. You have 48 hours to restore it to a natural appearance, or face escalating fines and potential legal action." Jake felt the bile rise in his throat, but Emily squeezed his hand, her expression calm and resolute. "We respectfully disagree with your decision, Mrs. Blackwell. We'll be seeking legal counsel on this matter." As the Aarons left the meeting, Jake turned to his wife, his eyes blazing with determination. "This isn't over. Not by a long shot." The fallout from the HOA's decision was swift and public. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood, and soon the Aarons found themselves at the center of a heated community debate. Some residents, like the Wilkins, stridently supported the HOA's stance, claiming the neon lawn was an abomination that needed to be stopped. Others, however, rallied behind the Aarons, applauding their defiance of the tyrannical HOA. Online, the controversy exploded, with the Aarons' lawn becoming a viral sensation. Hashtags like hashtag Green Gatekeepers and hashtag Lawn Liberty trended as people from all over the country weighed in on the battle. Jake and Emily found themselves the subject of both praise and vitriol, their every move scrutinized and dissected. Angry neighbors confronted them on the street, while strangers from across the country sent messages of support. "How dare you disrupt the harmony of our community?" Mrs. Wilkins shrieked, her face flushed with outrage. "This is a disgrace, and you should be ashamed of yourselves." Jake stood his ground, his voice level but firm. "With all due respect, Mrs. Wilkins, this is our property, and we have every right to maintain it as we see fit. The HOA's decision is unfair and unlawful, and we won't back down." Across town, a group of like-minded residents had gathered to plan a show of solidarity. "We can't let the HOA bully the Aarons into submission," said a young woman named Sarah. "We need to send a message that this kind of tyranny won't be tolerated." The group hatched a plan, one that would thrust the Aarons' fight into the national spotlight. As the 48-hour deadline loomed, tensions in the neighborhood reached a fever pitch, with both sides digging in for an epic showdown. The morning of the deadline dawned bright and clear, but the air was thick with anticipation. Neighbors gathered on their lawns, eyes trained on the Aarons' home, waiting to see if they would surrender to the HOA's demands. Jake and Emily, however, were not about to back down. They spent the morning making final preparations, their faces set with determination. As the clock struck noon, a caravan of vehicles pulled up to the Aarons' house, disgorging a crowd of supporters. Sarah and her fellow activists had arrived, armed with shovels, rakes, and bags of grass seed. "We're here to help," Sarah called out, her voice ringing with defiance. The Aarons aren't alone in this fight. Stunned neighbors watched as the volunteers set to work, meticulously tending to the fluorescent lawn. Jake and Emily joined them, their smiles matching the glow of the grass. Mrs. Wilkins, her face a mask of outrage, stormed over to the Aarons' property line. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded. "You have 48 hours to fix this abomination." Sarah stepped forward, her chin raised defiantly. "The Aarons are well within their rights, Mrs. Wilkins, and we're here to make sure they can exercise those rights without fear of retaliation." The HOA president, Mrs. Blackwell, arrived soon after, her expression thunderous. "This is completely unacceptable," she shrieked. "You're all in violation of the HOA bylaws." Jake met her gaze evenly. "With all due respect, Mrs. Blackwell, your bylaws don't supersede our legal rights as homeowners. We're not going to be bullied into submission, and we have the support of our community to prove it." As the confrontation escalated, news crews arrived, drawn by the growing commotion. Suddenly, the Aarons' fight had become a nationwide story, a battle for personal freedom against the tyranny of homeowners associations. The media frenzy that descended on the Aarons' neighborhood was unlike anything Jake and Emily had ever experienced. Reporters from local and national outlets swarmed the scene, eager to capture the drama unfolding before their eyes. Mrs. Blackwell, her composure crumbling, sputtered into the microphones thrust in her face. "This is an outrageous violation of our community standards. The Aarons are willfully and flagrantly defying the HOA's lawful directives." Jake stepped forward, his expression calm and resolute. "Mrs. Blackwell, your standards are nothing more than arbitrary rules designed to rob homeowners of their basic rights. We're not going to let you bully us into submission, and we have the full support of our neighbors to prove it." The growing crowd of volunteers cheered, their chants of green liberty echoing through the streets. Mrs. Wilkins, her face twisted with disgust, stormed off, muttering under her breath about ungrateful troublemakers. As the media coverage intensified, the Aarons' fight became a symbol of the larger battle against overzealous homeowners associations. Across the country, people rallied to their cause, flooding social media with messages of support and solidarity. "This is about more than just a lawn," said Sarah, her voice ringing with conviction. It's about standing up to the kind of petty tyranny that so many of us have faced at the hands of our HOAs. The errands are taking a stand, and we're here to support them every step of the way. The 48-hour deadline came and went, with the errands defiantly maintaining their neon-hued lawn. Mrs. Blackwell, her face a mask of fury, threatened escalating fines and legal action, but the errands refused to back down. "We're not going anywhere," Jake declared, his arm wrapped around Emily's shoulders. "This is our home, our property, and we'll defend it to the bitter end." As the days turned into weeks, the battle between the errands and the HOA raged on, captivating the nation. The story had become a lightning rod for the ongoing debate over the rights of homeowners and the sometimes overreaching power of homeowners associations. Across the country, people rallied to the errands cause, organizing protests and fundraisers to support their legal defense. The media attention only intensified, with the family becoming reluctant celebrities in the fight for personal freedom. Mrs. Blackwell, her once pristine public image in tatters, increasingly found herself on the defensive. Interviews and news segments challenged the legitimacy of the HOA's actions, highlighting the errands' steadfast adherence to the law. Meanwhile, the errands' neon lawn continued to captivate the neighborhood and beyond. Tourists flocked to the property, snapping photos and marveling at the vibrant, otherworldly display. The once staid community had become a hub of activism and resistance. As the legal battle dragged on, Jake and Emily found themselves forced to make difficult decisions. The fines levied by the HOA were mounting, threatening to bankrupt them. But they refused to back down, their resolve only hardening with each passing day. In a dramatic turn of events, the errands case made its way to the state Supreme Court, where a panel of judges heard the arguments on both sides. After weeks of deliberation, the ruling came down. The HOA's actions were deemed unconstitutional, a violation of the errands' rights as homeowners. The decision was hailed as a landmark victory, not just for the errands, but for homeowners across the country. Mrs. Blackwell and the HOA board were forced to issue a public apology, their reputations forever tarnished by the fallout. As the errands stood on their lawn, surrounded by cheering supporters, Jake couldn't help but smile. "We did it, honey," he said, pulling Emily close. "We stood up to the green police, and we won." The neon lawn, once the source of so much controversy, had become a symbol of triumph, a testament to the power of determination and the unwavering defense of personal freedom.